Hello, Virgo. Before you do anything, before you send that message, before you make that call, before you convince yourself that what you're about to do is the right move, I need you to stop right here, right now, and actually listen to what I'm about to say. Because something brought you to this reading today, and I don't think it was random. I think a part of you, the quiet, knowing part that lives underneath all the noise and the emotion and the back and forth, already suspects what I'm about to tell you. You are standing at the edge of a mistake. Not a small one, not the kind you shrug off in a week, the kind that if you make it, you'll be sitting with for a long time afterward, replaying it, wondering why you didn't slow down, asking yourself why you let the emotion drive when something inside you was already waving a flag. That flag, that's why you're here. So let's talk about it. Honestly, without drama, without judgment. Because I'm not here to scare you or shame you. I'm here because I genuinely feel that you need to hear this right now. While there's still time to choose differently, let's see what this energy is really showing us. First, I need you to know I'm not judging you. Before anything else, I want to establish something important between us. What you're feeling about this person, whatever it is, however complicated, however contradictory, is real. I'm not going to minimize it. I'm not going to tell you that your emotions are wrong or irrational or that you should simply think more clearly and everything will be fine. Emotions around people, especially this kind of person, the kind who takes up this much space in your inner world, don't work that way. They don't respond to logic the way we wish they would. They have their own momentum, their own gravity. And when you're inside that gravity, it can be almost impossible to see the full picture clearly. I know that. And I'm not here to judge the feeling. I'm here to help you see what the feeling might be pulling you toward and whether that direction actually serves you. Because here's what I sense very clearly in your energy right now. You care deeply, maybe too much, in the way that caring too much sometimes makes us act in ways that don't reflect who we actually are, in ways that we wouldn't choose if we could see the situation from the outside with a little distance and a little more air around it. And the mistake I'm sensing, let me be precise about this, it doesn't come from a bad place in you. It comes from a very human place, a place of pain or longing or frustration or that specific desperation that comes from feeling like something important is slipping away and you need to do something before it's too late. I I understand that feeling completely, but I need you to understand something too. Not every impulse that comes from pain is pointing toward healing. Who is this person? What I'm feeling. Let me tune into the energy around this specific person because I think understanding what's actually happening there beneath the surface of whatever story has been playing out is essential before we go any further. What I feel immediately is complexity. This is not a simple person. Not in the way that some people are straightforward, what you see is what you get, the energy is clean and readable. No. This person carries layers, and some of those layers are genuinely beautiful. I feel that I don't want to paint them as simply a villain in your story because that wouldn't be accurate. But some of those layers are complicated in ways that affect you, in ways that create confusion, that make you feel certain one moment and completely uncertain the next, that pull you close and then create distance without clear explanation that give you just enough to keep you engaged, but not quite enough to feel fully secure. Hold on, let me sit with this for a moment. Yes, I feel something specific. There is an imbalance in this dynamic, not necessarily a malicious one. I don't feel cruelty in this person's energy toward you, not deliberately. But there is an imbalance in terms of power, in terms of clarity, in terms of who is more certain about what they want and who is operating in the fog of uncertainty while trying to appear otherwise. And you, I feel this clearly, you have been the one carrying more of the emotional weight of this connection, more of the hoping, more of the interpreting and analyzing and trying to understand what the signals mean, more of the adjusting yourself to fit something that hasn't been fully stable. That's exhausting. And I think, it is. But here's the thing about that exhaustion, it doesn't always lead us toward rest. Sometimes it leads us toward action, toward doing something, anything, to break the tension and get a clear answer and end the uncertainty one way or another. And that impulse, that need to just make something happen, is exactly where the mistake lives. The mistake, what I'm seeing. I want to speak directly about what I'm sensing you're about to do, or considering doing, or have already started doing in your mind, playing it out, trying to decide if it's the right move. And I want to say up front, I don't think you're going to like hearing this. Not because it's harsh, but because part of you already knows it, and having it reflected back to you makes it harder to ignore. What I'm feeling is one of a few things, and as I name them, I think at least one is going to land directly in the center of your situation. The first possibility I'm sensing, you're about to reach out in a way that gives away more than you should right now. To say something or send something that reveals the full extent of how much you feel, how much you've been affected, how much this person has been living rent-free in your inner world. Not because that feeling is wrong, but because the timing is wrong, because the dynamic isn't yet stable enough to hold that honesty without it backfiring. And the part of you that wants to reach out isn't doing it from a place of genuine readiness. It's doing it from a place of, I can't take the uncertainty anymore. I need to know. Even if knowing hurts, I need something to hold. I feel that so clearly, and I understand it completely, but I also feel just as clearly that what you'll get back from that kind of reaching out is not the clarity you're looking for. It is more confusion, more ambiguity, or worse, a response that tells you something you weren't ready to hear, delivered in a moment when you weren't in a strong enough position to receive it well. The second possibility, you're about to make a decision about this person, about the connection, about where things stand from an emotional peak, from the highest point of either hope or despair. And decisions made from peaks are almost never the right ones because peaks don't last. They subside, and when they do, you're left with consequences you chose in a moment that no longer represents how you actually feel. I've seen this energy before, and it always looks the same. A moment of intense feeling, followed by an action that felt completely justified in that moment, followed by the slow, sinking realization that you acted from the emotion rather than from your actual wisdom. The third possibility, and this one I feel quite strongly involves a reaction. Something this person did or said or didn't say or didn't do has triggered something in you. Old pain, maybe. Old patterns. something that lives deeper than this specific situation and is using this situation as its current expression. And you're about to respond to them, but the response is actually meant for something or someone much older than this connection. And this person, whatever their flaws, whatever their role in your confusion, doesn't deserve to receive the full force of something that isn't entirely about them. And more importantly, you don't deserve the aftermath of that kind of reaction, because it won't feel like relief. It will feel like exposure, like you showed more than you meant to, in a way you can't take back. Does any of this feel familiar? Why this happens, the pattern beneath the moment? I want to go deeper for a moment, not into this person specifically, but into you. Because I think understanding why this is happening, what pattern is operating underneath the surface of this situation, is more valuable than anything I could say about what to do next. What I sense in you is someone who loves genuinely and deeply. That is not a flaw. That is one of the most beautiful things about you. But, and this is important, that capacity to love deeply has not always been met with the same quality of love in return. And that mismatch over time has created something, a hunger, a specific kind of emotional hunger that makes you particularly susceptible to people who give just enough, who are warm sometimes and distant other times, who pull you in and then create space, who make you feel seen one moment and invisible the next. Because that pattern, as painful as it is, feels familiar, and familiar, even when it hurts, registers somewhere in the nervous system as known, as safe, in a very strange, twisted way. Not safe in the sense of peaceful, but safe in the sense of, I know how to navigate this. I know how to work for this. I know how to try and earn my way to consistent love. And the mistake you're about to make, it is the latest expression of that pattern. It is you trying to earn something, certainty, affection, resolution, presence, through an action that feels brave in the moment but is actually coming from the old, wounded part of you that believes love has to be worked for, chased, or secured through some kind of gesture or sacrifice. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really sit with this. Have you ever felt fully, effortlessly chosen by this person without having to do anything to earn it? Not sometimes, not in the good moments, consistently, clearly, in a way that didn't require interpretation. Take your time with that answer, because I think it contains something important. What this person actually needs from you right now and what you need. Here's something that I feel but don't always say because it's uncomfortable. Sometimes what another person needs most from us and what we need most from ourselves is for us to do nothing. Not as passivity, not as giving up, but as a conscious, deliberate choice to let things breathe, to not fill the silence with something, to not rush the process toward a conclusion just because the uncertainty is unbearable. I feel, and this is one of the clearest impressions in this entire reading, that the energy between you and this person needs space right now. Not more input, not more words or gestures or attempts to move things forward or bring things to a head. Space. Because here's what space does in a dynamic like this one. It reveals. It shows you and them what actually exists when the active trying stops. What remains when you stop filling the silence. Whether they move toward you, when you're not moving toward them, whether the connection has its own momentum or whether you've been supplying all of it, that information is worth more than anything you could find out by making the move you're considering. And I say that not to be cruel, not to plant fear, but because I genuinely feel that you have been doing most of the work in this dynamic for a long time. And the mistake you're about to make would simply be more of that same work, more effort poured into something that has not yet shown you. It can sustain itself without your constant input. You deserve to know if it can. And the only way to know is to stop temporarily, consciously, intentionally, and see what happens. The deeper truth about what you actually want. I want to speak now about something underneath the surface of all of this, because I feel there's a truth in you that's being partially obscured by the immediate intensity of what's happening with this person. What you actually want at the deepest level, beneath the specific longing for this specific person, is to feel chosen fully, consistently, without having to wonder, to feel like someone sees you and wants you and chooses you, not because you worked hard enough for it, not because you said or did exactly the right thing at exactly the right moment, but simply because of who you are. That is a completely legitimate, completely human, completely beautiful thing to want. But I need to ask you honestly, is this person giving you that? Not in the best moments, not when things are good, in the ordinary moments, in the uncertain moments, in the moments when you haven't done anything particularly impressive or accommodating. Are you feeling chosen? Because if the answer is no, and I sense it might be, then the mistake you're about to make isn't just a tactical error. It's a deeper misalignment between what you're reaching toward and what you actually need. And I think some part of you knows this. Some part of you has known it for a while. The part that's tired, the part that sometimes in very quiet moments asks, why does this feel so hard? Shouldn't it feel easier than this? That part of you is wise. Not every connection that feels intense is a connection that's right for you. Intensity and rightness are not the same thing. And confusing them, which is very easy to do, especially when you're inside, the feeling is one of the most common and most painful mistakes in any relational dynamic. What to do instead practically, honestly, I don't want to leave you with just awareness. I want to give you something to actually do or not do as you move through the next few hours. The first thing is, do not act from this current emotional state. Whatever you're feeling right now, whether it's longing, frustration, hope, despair, the urgent need to resolve something, let it move through you without immediately translating it into action. Feelings are information, they are not instructions. Give yourself a window, 24 hours if you can manage it, 48 if possible, not to suppress what you're feeling, but to let the peak of it subside enough that you can hear your actual wisdom underneath it. The second thing, write it out rather than sending it out. Whatever you're thinking of saying, say it to yourself on paper, in a voice memo, wherever feels natural. Get it fully out of your system, feel the relief of expressing it, and then decide from a slightly calmer, slightly more grounded place whether it actually needs to go anywhere else. Very often, the need to send something dissolves once we've set it somewhere safe. because the need wasn't really about the other person receiving the message. It was about us needing to release the pressure. And we can release the pressure without creating consequences we aren't ready for. The third thing, and I feel this strongly, spend some time today with yourself, not analyzing the situation, not running the scenarios, but genuinely, kindly being with yourself. Because underneath all of this, there's a version of you that needs attention and care and presence, and you've been so focused on this other person that you may have been neglecting that. What do you need right now? Not in relation to them, just you. That question matters more than you might think, because when we know what we actually need, we stop trying to get it from the wrong sources in the wrong ways at the wrong moments. A gentle warning and a deeper compassion. I want to say something now that might be the most important thing in this entire reading. If you make this mistake, if you send the message, make the call, have the confrontation, make the gesture before you're truly ready, it is not the end of everything. I want to be clear about that. People make mistakes in relationships constantly. It is one of the most fundamentally human things we do. And if it happens, if you find yourself on the other side of this, having done the thing I'm cautioning you against, please be gentle with yourself, not dismissive, not excusing behavior that genuinely needs reflection, but gentle, because you will have acted from a place of pain or longing or love. And those are not shameful places to act from. They are human ones. But if there is any part of you that can hear this right now, the part that's still listening, the part that's why you're here, let me say directly, you don't have to learn this one the hard way. You've already learned enough things the hard way. This one you can see coming. This one you can choose to walk around. And choosing to walk around it, choosing to stay, to breathe, to wait, to let your wisdom catch up with your emotion, that is not weakness. That is not giving up or being passive or being afraid. That is actually one of the most powerful things you can do. Because real power in any relationship doesn't come from the loudest move or the most dramatic gesture. It comes from knowing your own worth clearly enough that you don't need to chase or convince or perform or sacrifice your dignity for a response. Real power is being able to say internally, quietly, firmly, I am worth being chosen without having to earn it. And I'm going to wait until I'm in a space where I can act from that knowledge rather than from the fear that I'm not. That version of you is in there. I feel it clearly. It's just being temporarily overshadowed by the louder, more urgent voice of the pain. What's actually available to you in this connection? I want to speak honestly about what I sense is possible in this dynamic, because I think you deserve a clear-eyed view, not just reassurance. I do feel genuine connection between you and this person. I don't sense that it is entirely one-sided or entirely manufactured. There is something real there, a real thread, a real resonance, something that drew you together that wasn't nothing. But I also feel, and I can't ignore this, that this connection is not currently in a form that can give you what you need, not because it never could, but because right now, in this moment, in this specific configuration, it is incomplete. There are things in this person, in their own journey, their own unresolved inner work, their own clarity or lack thereof, that make them unable to fully show up in the way you deserve. That's not your fault. It's not punishment for something you did wrong. It's simply where they are. And the mistake you're about to make, it won't change where they are. It might feel like it should. It might feel like the right move, the revealing moment, the thing that finally makes them see clearly. But I feel honestly, not harshly, that it is more likely to push the dynamic further into imbalance than to bring it into the kind of equilibrium you actually need. What has the potential to shift things, if anything, does is you stepping back into your own energy, your own center, your own sense of self that exists entirely independently of whether this person chooses you or doesn't. Because the most magnetic version of you is not the one reaching, it is the one who is fully, quietly, unshakably themselves. And right now, you're slightly outside of that. The reaching has pulled you off center. And getting back to center, not as a strategy, not as a technique to make them want you more, but as a genuine act of self-respect. That is the real work of this moment, what I want you to remember. As we move toward the end of this reading, I want to gather everything into something you can carry with you. Not a list of rules, not a set of strategies, just a few true things. You are not too much. Whatever part of you worries that your feelings, your needs, your depth of emotion is somehow excessive or burdensome, that is not the truth. The truth is that you are deeply feeling, and that quality in you is not a flaw to be managed. It is one of the most genuinely beautiful things about you. But that depth deserves to be met. It deserves a container strong enough to hold it. And the mistake you're considering making it is, at its root, an attempt to find out whether this person is that container, whether they can hold this version of you. And I want to gently say, you don't find that out by pouring everything in and seeing if it holds. You find it out gradually by watching consistency over time, by noticing whether they show up not in the dramatic moments, but in the ordinary ones, by paying attention to how you feel in their presence, not occasionally, but on average, not at the peak, but in the baseline. The answer to whether this person is right for you is not in the message you're thinking of sending. It's in the pattern that's already there, if you're willing to look at it clearly. And I believe you are. I believe that's why you're here. Not because you're weak or confused or unable to handle this, but because some part of you is already wise enough to look for a pause before the action, to seek a little clarity before the move. Honor that part. It knows what it's doing. Closing direct, warm, real. Before I let you go, I want to say something from a genuine place. I know this reading was not the comfortable, reassuring kind. I know it may have landed in some tender places. And if it stirred something in you, if it made you feel seen or slightly uncomfortable or relieved that someone finally said it directly, then it did what it was supposed to do. You came here for honesty, and I hope that's what you received. Not a verdict on this person, not a condemnation of your feelings, but a clear, grounded, caring voice saying, slow down, you are worth more than a move made from pain. You are worth more than a moment of relief that costs you your dignity or your peace. You are worth waiting until you can act from your highest self rather than your most wounded one. That's the whole message. Everything else was just the path to getting here. If this reading resonated, if you recognized yourself in these words, I'd genuinely love to know. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you're navigating. Tell me what you decided to do or not do. This space is one where honesty is welcome and where you will never be judged for being human. And whatever you decide in the hours ahead, know this. You are not defined by this moment. You are not defined by this person. And whatever happens with this connection, your worth, your deep, quiet, unshakable worth is not on the table. It was never on the table. Take care of yourself. I mean that completely. I'll see you in the next reading.